Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. We are going to talk about something today that impacts many people. And I'm talking about people in partnerships, marriages, couples. When things aren't working out, a lot of times we gravitate toward couples therapy. What does that look like? How do you deal with that, especially if one half doesn't want to go? And the dynamics between those types of relationships is what we're going to look at today. And she's somebody that helps individuals and couples with all different types of therapy. And she's just an amazing psychologist. Dr. Ann Creekmore is back with us again. How are you doing today?
Great, Steve. How are you?
Very well. And I always refer back to the manual for life. Love yourself, love your life. And this actually is looks like page 98. Couples therapy. So I actually know a few couples going through a rocky time. One of them is getting divorced or going down that road. They coincidentally, we're talking about it today, just started doing couples therapy. What happens when one doesn't want to go?
Well, a lot of times if one isn't willing to go, there's a good at least 50-50 chance that it might break up. They might break up eventually because the issues and concerns of the one who wants to go will not be probably addressed. So it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it takes two to tango, and just you need the commitment from both, parties, to both spouses or partners to be there and to work on themselves. And it's not like you can't accomplish anything, because as if you have to go by yourself and one of your issues and concerns is the couples or your relationship, if you make changes, of course, it will affect the unit. One part of the unit is changed, it will have an impact on the other. But there's a much greater likelihood of things working out, things getting better if both people are there to talk and work through things together.
Why don't we look at what happens? Because part of it is fear. One half of the relationship may say, I'm not doing couples therapy. We don't need that. I'm not going there. Right. In the back of their mind, they're thinking, what is going to happen? This is going to be a firing squad. I'm going to be in the sights of the therapist and potentially my partner. What actually, can you just broadly talk about what happens in let's say a couples therapy session?
Sure. Now, I can't speak for every therapist because, I have my own model, as you know, in the book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life. And I tend to follow that. And also have my own way of doing things. I really conform originally to the code, the billing code for the first session, 90791, for the intake or clinical evaluation. So for me, I'm not sure everyone would do this, but I would give them the same package of questionnaires and the intake psychosocial assessment questions, like about their themselves, about their personal symptoms, about their background, their full background, their psychiatrics, outpatient therapy, their symptoms from the past, developmentally or physically, or their extended family issues in terms of their psychiatric history, any legal history, substance abuse history. In other words, I would get much more. I would get the full picture on each individual first. Because, for example, if, say, a couple, one of them is ADHD, that's important to know, and to understand maybe that person isn't even getting any help or even is aware they have it. And so they can be helped. Sometimes they can come in for some individual. I don't mind seeing part of a unit on occasion for something they might need to work on. And of course, the spouse has been experiencing that ADHD all along, and maybe quite a bit part of the complaints that person has with them, never making time, not being time, or not being able to follow through on things. And then if they start to understand, well, this is what this person's grappling with, and it can be helped, they can also be more understanding, compassionate with the person, help. And maybe some people, realize, hey, maybe I have to put up some signs somewhere. I got to put a sign on the front door, a little, piece of paper with tape saying, don't forget such and such, today. And they see it and pull it, there's little strategies that if you find out whatever mental disorder, if you will, like ADHD, I'm picking on today,
Sure.
that they have, then the couple can work together to make that work better. So, and then also they can get the help they need eventually.
Do you find that things do come up during sessions? Like, I'll give an example of somebody I know that went to couples therapy. They're already talking about divorce. It's already, they haven't gotten attorneys, but this was, her idea was to better navigate everything by going to couples therapy.
Yes.
Especially, for the children, and just navigate the divorce process.
Yes.
I don't know his take on it. Maybe he thought that maybe it might, bring them together. I don't know. But I can say, and this is confidential. Nobody knows who I'm talking about here.
Of course.
It came up in the session, his anger. And according to what she told me, the therapist even said, you need to work on that. You have some challenges there, because it came out during the session.
He had a temper outburst during the session. That can happen.
Yeah. And that brings me to my question. I guess that does happen. I'm sure you encountered some surprises or some realizations during a couples therapy session.
Absolutely. I mean, like you were saying, we talked about last time, I think, about denial, DENIAL, don't even know I'm lying, kind of thing. Some people can be in denial. I see couples sometimes where the spouse that does now is considering divorce has been trying for years to explain their needs and feelings. And there's been kind of a denial that it's really that important. And it seems like it's all of a sudden to the other person, but it really isn't. Because as it happens sometimes, women will, actually have grieved the loss of the relationship before they come into the therapy couple session, because they felt like they reached out for so long and didn't get a response. That they
I want to go there. Let's talk about that, because I've heard that when women make a decision to end a relationship, they've usually thought about it at least 6 months in advance, or they've already made the decision 6 months prior in their mind.
Right.
Have you heard that?
Absolutely. They tried to express it, and it hasn't gone over. Maybe a big fight comes up, where, she's trying to say that her feelings or her needs are not being met, wants this. And then the husband's getting angry, cuts off. They don't really resolve anything. And just, eventually the person feels like, well, we're not going to get anywhere, especially if they haven't been willing until the last second, till the actual divorce is starting. They haven't been willing to come in to any therapy or work on anything. They kind of give up and start, moving away emotionally. And
disconnecting it. And
yes,
not that I cut anybody any slack. Every relationship situation is different, but from what I've heard and seen many times, it's never in the conversation elevated to the D word. It's, we're having problems. This is not working. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It could be that those 3 conversations a year, and being the other person in the relationship, you might think, well, all right, we talked about it. We'll try and make some changes, and then we're moving on. I think in many of these relationships that if somebody were to say, if this doesn't change, we're going to get divorced. I'm telling you right now, it's never discussed. So then a lot of times it's a surprise to the other person when that person says, yeah, I'm done. We're getting divorced. Like we said, a woman thinks about it 6 months in advance. And sometimes the man feels like, what are you talking about?
Right. Exactly. Everything was great. We worked it out. And, and they don't really know. And I always suggest that, or reinforce that when couples come in, even if they are, one of them is really thinking about divorce, that you don't want to just divorce, without trying, without coming to therapy and not having any regrets that this was the right decision. In other words, that it just couldn't be resolved, that you've come in, you've shared, you've tried to work on communication and getting it in a healthy way and working out, win-win solutions. You just really can't do it. Then, it's time to really think about, then how do you disengage? Because some couples, like you mentioned, they come in, at least one of them, to disengage amicably. They're thinking it's just not going to work. And then, like, how do we disengage in a peaceful, loving way, often for the children as well, and that you're going to have to be co-parents the rest of your lives? What's that going to look like? But to give it a chance, if you can, to really, try to see what the issues are if you haven't done that.
Is it a good idea at that juncture where you're entertaining couples therapy that you should go to your own therapy sessions, whether it's with the same therapist or somebody different, and kind of do your own thing to maybe figure out the situation and then maybe figure out you?
It's always good to figure out you, right? So that would be good for everyone all the time, and to have that support and that insight. And so I would say definitely. I mean, sometimes I believe I've seen some research that said that if the couples go to different therapists, it doesn't tend to work out as well as if they go to the same therapist. Sometimes just because, well, therapists might not, you might just, if you're a therapist, you're there for the person. And if they're saying my husband is this and that and the other, well, what happened if they could even be lying? I mean, I'm not saying they are, but but if the therapist hears, oh, they're hitting me and they're not actually hitting them, that's an extreme example. Then of course that therapist be saying, well, leave that person, do not stay there and get hit. You need to do something to set a boundary and separate physically enough that you're protected. But so sometimes it's better if you have both people there working on it together, that they can each add, a real picture to it, because the therapist is going to be trying to help the one, and it might not even be accurate. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so they found that it's okay for them to come to the couples therapy, but then also get some individual therapy as well, and from the therapist. And then of course for other things that are very individual, go to another therapist. But couples related things would be, good to kind of keep working together with the one therapist.
My gut tells me if you're going to do that, to use a different therapist than the couples therapist. I don't know. I think it's better to separate that, because even though the therapist remains impartial and all of that, I think there could be some spillover. If I'm talking about my issues, personally, and my view of, let's say the relationship, then you take it, with that same therapist that you're using it for the couples therapist, that it might muddy the waters a little bit. And certainly not that the therapist is a mediator or anything like that. What about the different energies? I often hear, masculine energy, female energy. I think there's myths there. If you tell a man you've got feminine energy, he's like, whoa, no, but he does.
Right.
Just broadly, how do we define that?
Yes. Well, masculine, feminine energy, yin and yang. We all have that, where the masculine energy is the ambitious, assertive, doing energy. And then the yin, or the feminine energy, would be the nurturing, creative, receptive kind of energy. And ideally, we do both. Ideally, all people have masculine and feminine energy. We want to be proactive and active, and asserting ourselves with our environment to make things, to take care of our lives. But we also want to be able to have our feelings, our our nurturing, our receiving sides, to be able to kind of do both. Um, and as far as we're talking about like the masculine energy and feminine energy with couples, the masculine energy is that wanting to be, or like men, let's just put it that way, males want to feel trusted. They are providing, they are doing their job to please their woman, and they're looked up as the provider, right? That would be kind of the masculine within the couple's energy. And then the female energy, the feminine energy, would be the one wanting to be nurtured, to be cherished, to be receiving, to be the nurturing,
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
well, but more of the receptive. And sometimes there can be breakdowns in relationship where there isn't a real understanding of, like, remember the book that was a bestseller, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, John Gray.
Yep.
There's this kind of connection, that you want the yin and yang, you want them functioning together in harmony. And ideally, then for women, particularly, since we're kind of talking about a lot of times women, feeling like they expressed and they're not getting anywhere, and then they withdraw and want the divorce, and the man doesn't even know what's going on. Sometimes they want to be cherished. They want their feelings. They want to have time where the man is willing to not be masculine in the sense of, like, I'm the hunter, I'm going after this goal, I'm going to fix this. They want to be cherished for their feminine energy, where they can just share feelings and needs and be listened to, and just somebody there for them, And sometimes that breaks down. Like if they were really in that masculine feminine energy mode, then the woman would have been hurt, and he would have gone, oh, she needs this now. And then he can be back in his masculine energy, like, oh, I'm the provider. This is what she's sharing. She needs, not taking it negatively, personally. It's just her thing. And you're going to provide for that. You're going to listen first. You're not going to fix it. She's going to tell you what she needs. And you're going to then provide that process where you've actually got that masculine feminine energy going.
Gotcha. Yeah. Based on everything you said, and I'm going to say it, I would say I probably have more feminine energy than the average man.
Yeah,
I just do. I know.
And it's wonderful.
I'm more of a nurturer.
Yeah.
The creative, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I love women. But that being said, even my career, I think it was successful, and it still continues because on the radio side, the prize demographic is women 25-54. And, I was able to tap into that just by, kind of thinking like a woman.
Yes. Yeah. You're wonderful.
What are some of the other things that we should mention when it comes to navigating relationships with couples, even if it's connected to couples therapy? Are we forgetting anything here?
Well, triggers, like in couples therapy, once you kind of getting to know the individuals and they're knowing themselves and getting to the right resource to work on their self and so on, and we're supporting that. It's about communication, learning healthy, tactful, polite communication, win-win negotiations. Generally, I was going to say, I've had a few outbursts during sessions, but it's just something somebody shouldn't usually fear, because I will structure the communications like, this is how you do healthy, polite, tactful communication and win-win negotiations. And you're going to, who has a concern can be the sender first and sharing little bits. And then the other person's going to be the listener, acknowledger, and, saying it back, being more the feminine energy, if you will, maybe, I was saying, I'm hearing you say this, and it's not my intention. It's not, and I'm sorry. And then you flip, and then the other one becomes the kind of sender, and the other one becomes the active listener, the receiver, and is supportive. And then once it's all on the table, then each person can think about, well, we've talked about this topic. What do I really need? What can I let go? I'm in a relationship. I can't get my way in everything. But what do I need? Pull it together. We get a win-win. So it's kind of if you teach them the communication skills, then they start practicing it at home, and you just find the healthy way. So that's important, learning healthy communication skills. And then also being aware of the concept of triggers, which, people, know about triggers. It's kind of like 90%, according to John Gray, of the conflicts between couples are actually triggered emotional pain from the past that the person isn't aware of. They're just at the moment, they feel this little incident caused them to feel this way, and they're not even aware that it's really because it's bringing up, something from their childhood or the way they were treated, and that's unresolved and needs to be grieved and healed, that wound. So I think those are some things that are important. And the 5 love languages, where you learn what makes the other person feel loved. There's a quiz online. It's called the 5 love languages, spelled FIVE, and you can take the test, and it ranks about 5 main ways people feel loved, because people will express love in the way that makes them feel loved, which might be the opposite of what the other person experiences as love. So kind of learning what makes that you feel love, so you can tell them, and learning what makes them feel love, so you can up that and do that for them, often is very healing in relationship.
In my experience, I feel that before you get serious into any relationship, you should go through the 5 love languages and put them in order of what's important to you and share it with the other person. Because I've experienced it so many times where it's overlooked. And let's say you're somebody that likes appreciation.
Words of affirmation, it's called.
Right. But you don't get that, that
exactly.
And it's just the simplest thing. Like somebody might give you, one of the other ones is active service. They might be doing stuff for you, whatever. No, I just want you to appreciate me. That's all it is.
Just say, you look nice. I appreciate that how cool you look for our party tonight, or whatever. Or appreciate you pulled out all this stuff for the party tonight.
Right.
And so, and then that person's just feeling the love,
Yeah.
Whereas if you just did something, then, for them, like went ahead and got stuff out to help out with the party, then they, aren't feeling anything. It's like, that's low on my list. I want to just hear some good words, some support.
It could be even, physical touch. That's another one.
Absolutely.
You may be somebody that interprets the other person caring by the way, even if they just hold your hand when you're walking in public, or they put their arm around you for a second, whatever it is, that's you. And, granted, that could go back to your childhood where maybe your parents didn't give you, that type of hugs and things like that.
Absolutely.
It is what it is.
Void, and you're still having that need, and that just makes you feel the love, and that really improves your relationship. Mm-hmm.
All good stuff.
Yeah.
And I love your dress, by the way. I got to tell you.
Oh, thank you.
Very festive. Very festive.
Yes, it's Christmas.
Good stuff today. How do we find you if somebody is in a challenging relationship or just dealing with some stuff? How do they locate you?
Yes, the easiest way is just to go to Psychology Today, and then you can just look me up, Ann Creekmore, Dr. Ann Creekmore. You'll see my picture, so you'll know it's me. And because I don't have on it, all I have is a little link. You can just click that link, and sometimes you got to click one other link thing, but to get in. But people seem to be able to go right to my website for my practice, my clinical practice. They'll have my phone numbers, my emails, books, and so on it.
And certainly everything we're talking about today is in your book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life. And do a search for that. It's under your pen name, AP Filosa, just letting everybody know. And,
thank you.
It's one of a couple of books you got. Thank you so much for today, and happy holidays to you and yours, and we'll catch up soon.
And to you. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.